This doesn't even do it
Oh
justice,
my
but you could
gosh.
see how crazy my head bobbles around and the car shakes. And
All right, I am here with the man who does not need much of an introduction besides Fast Pasta. That is driver of the number 78 BJ McLeod Motorsports Xfinity Chevy, Anthony Alfredo. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks. Appreciate you having me on the channel. You've been popping off lately with all the content, so proud to be a part of an episode with you.
Yeah, we've been trying to spend a lot of fun and getting people like you and other drivers, real life and sim, to come out. That's what it's all about. So first we're going to check out a comparison that I made here a little bit ago, just showing the full screen of the C-Fix truck versus your in real life helmet cam, top of the helmet cam. And then afterwards we're going to move on and check out a little more close visor cam on Charlotte that you have on your channel at Anthony Alfredo. That'll be in the description and you can see the link right here. Go check that out before you watch this video. But first off, we got this C-Fix right here, and it is bright in real life compared to iRacing. That sun is killer. I don't know how you guys do it.
Yeah, that's definitely really bright. This wasn't even sunset, especially when the sun's setting off turn 4 at a lot of these tracks. Before it gets behind the grandstands, like you can't see anything for a solid second or two, and it's like right there. You see it in the middle of the corner. But see here, yeah, and then it's the grandstands block it on the front stretch, so you see it clears up. But there is a hectic moment in the car at races at this time of day, like day to night, or when the sun is setting, especially when cars are around you. And in the corners, the worst, because you literally can't see anything. So it's pretty brutal. And the camera here is like a little bit higher than I wanted it. At this video, I had a GoPro. The other one, I have the visor cam. But for this, it's a little higher than I want. But if it was my eye level, it would definitely capture that even more, because the visor on the actual windshield of the truck's kind of blocking it. So it's like amplified even more in this one for sure.
I cannot imagine side-by-side racing in this exact moment right here. Like, that must be just nerve. Do you even feel like that in the car? Like, okay, I'm blind now. I'm just going to hold the wheel and hope that we come out the other side? Or how does that feel in the car?
Yeah, literally. I mean, I usually, when the environments like that, I'll ask my spotter, or at least give him a heads up, like, hey, I literally cannot see anything in the center of turns 3 and 4, like here, or going into turn 1 or off of turn 4. So just like keep, be extra mindful of that when you're spotting, just so I know where people are at or what's happening, because I literally can't see anything. And it's actually worse with other vehicles too, because sometimes what happens when the lighting's like this, there's a really bad glare off, say, the back window of their car, or like in this case, the deck lid of the truck. So there's other factors that actually amplify it, make it even worse than it already is.
Right, the truck, you got the flatbed at least to divert some of the beams. But then the other thing I was noticing too is, I don't know if it was just because your camera's on the helmet, but I don't think so, but just how much bumpier it is on the straightaways here. Are you feeling every one of those bumps in real life in a way that just iRacing you can't really feel at all?
Definitely. I think on iRacing it's a little smoother and numbed down to a degree. I mean, I'm fortunate if I have a D-Box haptic system on my SimSeats rig, so I can feel a lot of those subtle cues, and it is really accurate, but usually you don't get all that just through a wheel or like obviously your seat. So there is one really big bump down here in 3 and 4. You should see my head go.
Oh, there it is.
Right there, yeah. And the camera's usually stabilized like really well, so it doesn't look as bad as it is, but there's a big one right there that's gotten worse over the years too. This was like the second year after the repave, so it's way worse now.
Man, so it's like you go through the blinding light and then you're like, wow, I'm finally can see now, and then you just are bumped all over the place.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And 3 and 4,
I think this
is that a flat out? Is that flat out in the truck?
Oh yeah, yeah. And 1 and 2, actually in qualifying, was wide open. Believe it or not, like I was flat out in qualifying here in a truck, which was super sketchy. But in this clip, I think I rolled out to about maybe 50% throttle or so, and then finished it. So I'd say like your telemetry is pretty close. Like definitely no brake, but I wasn't full lifting in 1 and 2. And then down here is just easy flat out. But the steering's closer than it looks too. Like I said, I think that because the camera's higher, it's looking down, so the index on the wheel looks like it's turned a lot more than yours, but it's actually probably about the same. Okay. Because the steering box was the same, so the actual like amount I'm turning and everything should be like really similar to what you were.
Yeah, one thing I was I've heard from some in real life drivers. I've never raced a car in real life myself. I'm like I said, I'm a pretty much a gamer when it comes to this, but some people have said how that in real life, you don't need to run those higher steering ratios that you seemingly sometimes need to on iRacing. Do you have any opinions on that?
Yeah, that's not very realistic. I mean, if anything, the larger the ratio, right, the more you have to turn the wheel. So I think on iRacing, in my opinion, like it helps a lot of people out saving tires and stuff because number one, the tire model, it's extremely sensitive to wear. But on top of that, you want to turn the wheel as little as possible, and a lot of people have a habit, especially on the sim where they can't feel as much, to oversaturate the front tires and turn the wheel too much. So by going up in steering box ratio or pinion on the next gen car, it helps prevent you from turning the wheel as much.
It's a crutch.
So you can literally, like, say you like to turn your hands, like your hands are at 10 and 2 and you turn them till you're turning left, your right hand's at about 12 o'clock. Well, you change your steering ratio on iRacing and your hands are going to be in the same place, but the front tires won't be, because you're slowing that down. But in real life, you have more feel and all that. Not to mention it would be, honestly, like at least for me, way too slow for reacting to things and just for handling. So that's definitely something that's more of like an assist or like a crutch, as you mentioned, on iRacing, that can just help people manage their tires better because they can't feel. But for me, I don't do that. Like I run 12 to 1 or 10 to 1 all the time on iRacing. And sometimes I still burn my tires up, but I think like I have, because of my real world experience and like I have a really nice simulator. I'm really lucky. So I could feel a lot more than like most can. So I'm able to turn the wheel a little less than some people. So I can manage like a smaller ratio.
And you know what goals that you're going for. So if you miss them, you're like, okay, I missed it by this much. We'll get them next time. It's not that I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to go over no matter what. So I need that crutch. That's kind of like a beginner mindset.
Yeah, and I think it's something you could learn with time. But like obviously people don't want to throw away races or anything as they learn it. But I mean, it's just one of those, like, if you simplify how to drive a race car, one of the things to go fast is turn the wheel as little as possible, right? And that obviously helps with tire wear and long run. So if you could teach yourself how to do that, you definitely don't have to switch ratios or stuff like that. In real life, if you did, it would just be because personal preference or feel, but not because of tire wear or anything like that necessarily.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to the Xfinity car and see what we can see from that view. So here we got kind of an out the windshield view, but we can still see the tape on the wheel and kind of give a good idea how much offset you're even running there going in the straightaway.
Yeah, this is definitely a full-blown POV, point of view of mine with the visor cam. This is as close to eye level as you'll ever get. Pretty much exactly what I see. The color's a little off because I had a tinted visor, but other than that, you can see the track looks very similar, but it's definitely extremely rough in person.
Yeah. If this was a still image, I could be convinced that this was like some sort of mega rig that Boosted Media made or something. But
this is the roll bar cam, which is another cool angle. I got both these cameras pretty much lined up exactly the same in iRacing versus real life, which gives you a good perspective. Obviously, in real life, back to the lighting thing, I mean, you can't numb any of that out, so it's hard to see certain things. But
so what are you looking at? Are you just looking at the track at this point? What are your eyes on when you're just this discombobulated in the light?
Well, so it looks worse behind the windshield, I think, at this camera angle, especially because my visor's tinted, so I could see very well. But like during this lap, I didn't really have any glare issues actually at this point. It just, like I said, I think it looks a little worse than it is. But I'm always just looking at the track, and when I'm by myself turning laps like this, I'm trying to hit my apex every lap. That blue and white painted line. There's a ton of grip on it in real life, just like iRacing.
Really? So that's realistic?
Yes, that's super realistic. iRacing has that down. Like a lot of people think, they get frustrated because on iRacing they're like, oh, I missed the bottom by a foot, and then I just plowed and like completely slipped up the track.
Yeah, I think it's a video game thing.
That's real life. If you miss the bottom by like a couple inches, you'll wash, over a car with the wind. So you got to get your left front right on it, and if you do, it'll pull you right around it with less steering input just because the paint is more grip.
Right. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I
it's
kind of
very
always
similar.
thought that was a video game thing. That's awesome to hear. That's a thing in real life.
Yep. Yeah, it is for sure. It takes a lot of precision. That's why I love iRacing as a training tool, just because like you can work on being precise and more finesse with things like that.
Is it always like that, or are there some places where the paint doesn't really do anything?
Honestly, everywhere I've raced, it helps.
Wow.
I would say some tracks, like Homestead, that bottom lane has a little less banking than like the second on up. So there, it's not necessarily faster, but there's definitely grip on that paint. Like from my experience, anywhere you run the bottom, you want to get your left front on that that painted line, right against the transition of the apron.
Yeah. Anything else that kind of jumps out to you when you think of this is a huge difference between my sim and my car in real life?
Just the roughness of the track, but obviously the scan was from 18, I think. So it's gotten way worse over time. Every year it's like 2 times worse. And I felt like this year at this test, it was 3 times worse for some reason, especially going into 3 right here. This doesn't even do it justice, but you could see how crazy my head bobbles around and the car shakes and my hands, are trying to fight that and keep the car underneath me. So it gets pretty, chaotic in there, busy at times if you cross those bumps the wrong way, because they can definitely throw the balance off. But I think other than that, one thing I wish I forgot to max my graphics out for the sake of this video, because then I could have HDR and made it look a little bit better. It's really dark looking, but I tried to get the time of day and all at the same. My offset, fun fact, everyone's roasting me for that on social media. I normally always try to have it center. I definitely never have my index right. Some people do prefer that. I hate that. I always prefer it center, but sometimes it ends up 1 click off. Like when you put your wheel on, it's 1 spline to the left. I'm okay with that. That's what it is here. It's just 1 spline to the left, which was no big deal.
You don't want it to the right at all.
Adjustments. Yeah, so I needed to like recenter it, but I'd rather 1 click to the left than 1 click to the right. But obviously, I always shoot for center.
Makes sense. Yeah, these are just really cool views, and if you want to see other views like this in the future or the past, go check out Anthony's channel. There is a lot of great content, not only in real life, but on Sim too. Definitely one of my favorite iRacing channels, even if I got exposed by not being subscribed to him. I promise it's on my homepage. But
I'll trade you.
Yeah, right. But anyways, that's awesome view, awesome insight. Thanks a lot for coming out. And hopefully we'll get you back on here for some other views sometime.
Of course, I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you all on the track.